A historic day in Washington as Governor Bob Ferguson signs the millionaires tax into law, a legal pushback that's expected to follow.
So what's happening just really isn't normal.
A human rights warning issued for millions of fans traveling to the World Cup this summer, why one group is urging caution to travelers. Plus, the search is on for the thieves who made off with millions of dollars worth of art in Italy. And you can now bet on anything from sports to politics to current events. But Washington's AG says an online platform is breaking the law, why he's now filed a lawsuit against Kalshi. And new at noon, Marion County Sheriff's deputies got into a shootout with a domestic violence suspect in Almsville. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Gordon. According to Salem Police, which is the leading investigation here, deputies responded to a home near Staten and McClellan Road around 7 o'clock last night. When deputies went inside, they found 47-year-old Brian Baker armed with a gun. Deputies say Baker started shooting and they fired back. After retreating from the home, Baker barricaded himself inside. Around 2 a.m., a SWAT team went in and found Baker dead from what they believe are self-inflicted injuries. No deputies were hurt during the incident, and the investigation is ongoing there. Washington's first ever income tax is now officially law. This morning, Governor Bob Ferguson signed Senate Bill 6346, the so-called millionaires tax. It will impose a 9.9% tax on income above $1 million a year for individuals or households. It does not tax the value of assets like homes or property. The law doesn't take effect until 2028, with payments due starting in 2029. Supporters say the revenue would expand tax relief for some small businesses, fund free school meals, and put money back into the pockets of low-income families through the Working Families Tax Credit Program.
This literally sends a check back to hardworking Washingtonians in the form of a check between $300 and $1,300, depending on the size of their family and their income. It's a great program. We just need to expand it. And with the revenue from the millionaires tax, we're adding 460,000 working families who receive that tax credit every single year.
Now, opponents say they plan to challenge the law in court, raising constitutional issues that could ultimately be decided by the Washington Supreme Court. Republican leaders have also said they are exploring a voter repeal effort that could put the law on the ballot. Crews are working to figure out what sparked an auto shop fire in Forest Grove this morning. Officials say the fire started around 5 a.m. at CS Customs on Cedar Street near University Avenue. Crews at the scene said reports of an explosion were also called in, and the propane tanks and other explosive materials were inside the building.
There were some explosions. When 911 callers do that, that's sometimes just what fires do, is they pop and make noise. I don't know how big the explosions were, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of explosions, just because, you know, there's welding items and stuff like that likely in this type of business.
Firefighters say the roof eventually collapsed. No injuries have been reported so far. Officials say the business next door, called Hardwood Design, also had some water damage. All right, we're going to switch gears now and take a live look from our Wells Fargo's camera there, Skycam, looking south. Temps expected to hover near 60 this afternoon. Let's bring in meteorologist Rod Hill at the Weather Center, tracking all that. Rod?
Here's the key to what's nice right now. If you want nice, you look north. We just looked south. North, it's pretty much clear. I'm looking north out the window. It's right beside me, and I see sunshine. So the clearing is coming down from the north, and I think you folks in Salem, where you're still showing cloudy skies, will be developing increasing sun this afternoon. Here's Seaside, beautiful day so far. Sunny skies there. The Reserve Vineyards and Golf Club from the Explore Tualatin Valley camera also showing a lot of sun. And here's downtown. Well, if you look off to the west, it's also pretty nice from the Rose City camera. Our noontime temperature of 47 degrees. So it's still really cool out for this time of the year. And there is a northwest breeze, not overly strong, but 10, 15, 16 miles per hour, adding a bit of a bite to the air. Our hour-by-hour forecast, mid-50s at 2 o'clock. This has us getting up to about 58 degrees later this afternoon, and I agree with that forecast. Big story in the 7 days, the rain coming in Wednesday, and we'll cover that for you coming up in just a little bit, Tim.
All right, Rod, we'll see you then. Thanks. Well, here's a look at some other headlines this afternoon. In Italy, the search is on for the thieves who made off with millions of dollars worth of famous artwork. Authorities say they forced open the doors of the Magnanici Rocca Foundation Museum in Parma. They stole 3 paintings by Renoir, Cezanne, and Matisse. Local media reported that the thieves were able to nab the paintings in less than 3 minutes and escape across the museum gardens. Bank of America has agreed to pay more than $72 million to settle a lawsuit from victims in the Jeffrey Epstein case. The deal was filed in federal court in New York and now needs a judge's approval. The lawsuit claimed the bank helped enable Epstein's sex trafficking, but the company denies any wrongdoing. If approved, the settlement could cover claims from multiple victims. Well, millions of fans heading to the 2026 World Cup face significant human rights risks. That's according to the human rights group Amnesty International. With just over 10 weeks until kickoff, the organization says the United States, which will host 3/4 of the matches, is experiencing what is described as a human rights emergency driven by mass deportations, aggressive immigration enforcement, and restrictions on protests.
What's happening just really isn't normal. There is a climate of fear in the country. There are crackdowns on protests.
Amnesty is calling on FIFA to use its leverage with the Trump administration to secure public guarantees that immigration enforcement would not take place around stadiums, fan zones, watch parties, or other World Cup-related events. All right, we're giving you a live look at the U.S. Capitol right now, where it's now day 45 of the record-setting partial government shutdown. Negotiations to reopen the Department of Homeland Security were dealt a major setback on Friday. House Republicans rejected a Senate-passed bill and voted instead for a short-term funding plan that will hit a dead end in the Senate. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Lingering delays at airports.
Throughout the day, I can see it probably, getting longer and more stressful for people.
Mirroring the holdup on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers left town on Friday without a deal to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Now on day 45, the longest partial government shutdown on record. That despite the Senate unanimously passing funding for all of DHS except ICE and Border Patrol.
Let's fund everybody else and let's deal with this thorny issue about ICE. And then you had the Republican House say, hell no, we're not doing that.
House Republicans chose not to vote on the Senate-passed bill, instead passing a short-term measure that includes immigration enforcement, adamant that must be funded now.
This is a dangerous time and we need full Homeland Security.
That House bill a no-go in the Senate. But despite the impasse, TSA agents, who called out Friday in record numbers, may start receiving back pay as soon as today or tomorrow through an order signed by President Trump.
Well, we're going to pay them for as long as we have to.
While the president's border czar suggested ICE agents may stay on to move airport security lines even after TSA pay resumes.
It depends how many TSA agents come back to work, how many TSA agents have actually quit and have no plan coming back to work.
The Senate's top Republican told members he is working with Democrats to search for a solution, according to a source familiar with negotiations, though he emphasized ICE and Border Patrol remain the sticking point without the reforms Democrats are demanding. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, tens of thousands of protesters rallied in downtown Portland Saturday as part of the latest No Kings protest. This was the latest in a series of nationwide protests against the federal government led by Donald Trump. In Portland, protesters flooded Waterfront Park and Nadeau Parkway and marched up and over the Steel Bridge. Maxine Fuchsen with Jewish Voice for Peace tells us what she's most concerned by since the last No Kings protest.
To protesters detaining and deporting families with children, separating families, and bombing a school in Iran, a girls' school, killing 170 plus children and denying it. That is absolutely shocking.
Several other protests were organized across our region, including a rally in Vancouver with people filling up Marshall Park. Protesters also marched in Cannon Beach. In the meantime, Portland police arrested 3 people Saturday night after another demonstration outside the ICE facility on the South Waterfront. The Bureau says after the No Kings rallies, a separate group made its way to the facility. Police declared an unlawful assembly just after 10 p.m. They say throughout the night, protesters damaged the ICE facility's gate and threw rocks at officers trying to contain the crowd. The 3 arrested face charges of criminal mischief and trespassing. Now, before we go to break, we have some exciting news for you. You now can be able to watch 10 Mariners games right here on KGW this season. Here's a look at those games starting April 10th. 10 of the M's regular season games will be available to watch right here on KGW. The games will feature the Mariners regular season announcers, and you can get more information at our website, kgw.com. Go Mariners!